Welcome everybody to our number 2 video talking about video games. And we got the first video out last week, and we definitely wanted to follow up 1 week later with a new video. And we wanted to kind of get right into the first video. The questions and the comments were great, and we really appreciate that. And that's what we were looking for, and really narrowing down, talking about the next videos and the videos in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much. We do appreciate it. So
there was some great stuff there, and what we kind of wanted to get to the point of this video is why we feel qualified talking about this and why we do this. Besides, being a business and trading games, as a business, but why this? Why video games? Why are so many people talking about video games? But we kind of wanted to get narrowed down, get it out of the way, and talk about why we feel qualified. I told you in the last video, I hired Chris for a reason. Here's the reasons.
Well, guys, just like a real brief bit about my background. I've worked in retail for over 15 years now. I worked for multiple big box retailers. I personally opened up over 40 locations for a major cell phone retailer. I've done digital advertising and marketing, but I spent a lot of my life looking at budgets and year-over-year numbers. I've sold SEO, SEM, geo-targeting, so I do feel like I've spent so much time doing that. I've kind of applied everything I learned from that in my past and put it to this new endeavor that I'm really passionate about. I did sales for a really, really long time, but I just decided I really didn't like it. But what I do like is selling video games. It's something I'm passionate about, and that's, a really hard thing, is to find something you're good at, but also care about. And so for me, I just kind of look at all of this information as the same. I think, when you're talking about speculating and when you're talking about investing or however you want to look at it, if there's data that supports what you're researching, that you can kind of make some layer of projections accurately. And I've just spent a lot of my time and my life, professional and personal, just investing in that and trying to pay attention to trends, and I've been applying it towards this. So.
And we're definitely in a new trend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of what we're talking about, video games as getting them graded and then on the market for resale, and future buying them and saving them for as an investment, as part of maybe a portfolio. So that's that side of that, is why we're talking about it. And that brings a lot to the table, what you have to offer. You've offered me so much. I've learned a lot on that aspect of things that I didn't know about, because I've always just had video games.
Right.
I just wanted one of each video game.
Yep.
So, and I never really thought of my video games as an investment. I knew they cost me money, and I knew I could resell them and make a profit, but it wasn't like this.
Right.
This wasn't why.
Well, and this is just a whole new door. You know what I mean? It really, really is. It's a new avenue. It's been really emerging over the past year or two, specifically, as we kind of talked about before, with WATA more than anything else. They're really good at bringing media attention to the hobby, and as someone that has a, decent marketing background, that's a lot of work that goes into doing that.
They're doing it good.
They're doing the work. They really, really are, and that's important, and that's why you hear as many people talking about it now versus the past, is because they're getting out there and getting in front of the right people and just doing the work that's necessary in this, especially, media and internet-driven society that we're going into more and more every day.
Exactly. So. Really driving this market fast and high. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my history in video games. It's a little longer and a little different. So Trading Games has been open since 2002, so almost 19 years of open retail business. I started selling video games on the very beginning of eBay when I had to type HTML code out by hand to be able to have bold and colored listings, and I used a webcam. So been selling video games for a long time, even before I opened the retail store. But some of my more important credentials what I started on in the early 2000s, I started working with a magazine called the Video Game Collector Magazine, and with Digit Press providing list of games and pricing on their experience, I actually took the whole entire price list and used like a database to follow increase in prices. So this magazine really was the first official price guide out in 2005 that showed loose and complete prices. And then every month to month we showed updates, and we were trying to follow like the comic book baseball card industry with those price lists and everything, and then add content to a magazine too. That was and I was just in charge of pricing. I didn't really have anything to do with the magazine other than I knew the owner, he was local, and I helped him out with that. And it was great while it lasted for 4 or 5 years. And then my next endeavor right in the middle of that was I co-authored a book called Classic 80s Home Video Games. And it was a really in-depth book that was released in 2008, but we started in 2005. And it was just all about Atari, ColecoVision, and Television, Vectrex, Odyssey. So my expertise is super strong in those areas of the really first generation video games. But I mean, of course, I had huge collections, besides Atari and Coleco back then. And this was a price guide, an identification guide, and variation guide. The 2008 prices now, they're irrelevant.
As someone that's gone through some of those magazines, it is crazy to see what the market was suggesting that these games were worth at that time.
Yeah.
So
it was a monumental task tracking like all the platforms and adding new releases as they came out in the Video Game Collector magazine. And unfortunately, magazines like this one was ahead of its time. Print was hot, and but it went away. For a while, print was just not cool. Nobody wanted to spend $6 on a magazine.
Right, yeah.
Or $25 for a 400-page color book was just astronomical in 2008. And books are really in fashion now. This could do so much better nowadays, but it's done. It's out of print and gone. But I really wish we could have tracked prices with this much detail since the very inception of early 2002, 2003 is when I really started tracking all the platforms around pricing, and I did that for my store,
right,
to put prices on games, and I did it to help other people. So that's kind of my background in it, and then my new current background that you've been along with the whole time is this getting games graded, and so now my experience is about 100 games graded.
Yep.
Of all varying platforms and condition, and sold through now 30 or so far on Heritage over the last few months.
And for the majority of the games, once you decided to start potentially selling them, before I started working here, you'd already put out quite a few done it for a couple orders of grading.
Yeah.
But like you said, I've been part of a fair amount of them, and I've probably graded myself about 25 to 30 games so far. So I'm outside of that too. So.
Yep. And I have so many more in the pipeline. But that's
More
a
to
different subject. We'll talk about WATA and that at another time. Maybe we get some different comments and feedback from people. We love WATA, so we won't, say anything really discouraging about them by any means. But they have their same hiccups as any small grown company. So that's nothing new. So that's just a kind of short reason why we feel qualified to talk about it, and kind of why we're doing it now. One of the big things, one of the comments was, this is just cash grab, and that wasn't targeted at us by any means. It's just everybody who's in it now is in it for a cash grab. So here's my perspective on that. I never had these games. I never bought these games, like I said at the very beginning, it was just had them. I knew they would be worth more than I paid for them, but not as an investment, not as a long-term retirement plan or anything like that. And so the cash grab is selling them now. Why? Why now? Well, I'm pulling games out of my collection, out of my complete sets that are good enough to get graded, either sealed or high CIB grade. And because I think right now that they're worth so much more than they ever have been, and on a lot of them, I think they're worth more than they ever will be. That's just
Agreed.
my opinion. We are trying to learn this market. Everybody is. There is nothing. There is no, oh, this doesn't make any sense. Some of this stuff doesn't make any sense. But we have been putting our finger on some trends.
Well, kind of like I said, I spent a lot of time looking at budgets and trends, right? And so there are patterns that you'll start to see the more and more you look at it. I mentioned in the last video that my favorite part about it is that it's completely transparent and all that information is available to you, right? And again, this is still speculation, right? So there's no definitive answer here. But even looking at what games are being sold, you can tell that people are trying to hit the big hit, right? I don't think anyone would have expected, we've both been selling video games for a long, long time. If you are a game collector, some titles are more, rare or sought after in the collector hobby, right? Everyone knows what the NWC card is. If you don't, it's the Nintendo World Championship. But besides that, like, if I talk about NES games, your big standard NTSC release game that most people are on the hunt for is Little Samson, right? If you wanted to talk to most collectors, they'd probably tell you they thought Little Samson would be the one that would be the best. And if you actually look at its trend, it does continue to go up in value. But I don't think anyone ever thought that the world record video game sale would be Super Mario Brothers 3.
That's just crazy.
There wasn't video game conventions where everyone was like, check out my Mario 3, man, look at what I got today. And don't get me wrong, for the nostalgia purposes, yes, there was, but like, that's not what people were showing off when they were excited that they got a new piece for their collection, with the exception of, like, that's probably the first game you went for,
And that's why we're doing it, because of this excitement.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I'm doing this, and I've said this in opening my WATA video games on video, and it's talking about, it's brought a new level of excitement to the hobby. And I don't think that's bad for the hobby. I think people who want to collect still and collect video games, there's going to be no problem getting your Mario 3s boxed.
Right.
You know what I mean? In nice shape.
Mm-hmm.
I think this sealed market and this high grade CIB market where people are paying a lot of money for like let's say Zelda first print TMs, I think a lot of people who collect don't care that it's going to have a TM Zelda.
I agree.
At all. I think they just want a boxed Zelda and maybe a player's choice version, or not player's choice, the second print of Zelda, the gray card, gold card. They'll have one of each, and that will satisfy their collecting goals.
Right.
There's very few people that are going to have all these different TMRs, different art placement, lack of those things in their collections to feel complete. So I don't think it hurts the hobby at all.
Right. Yeah. And I also think that it's almost like it's its own separate hobby from what a lot of video game collecting is, I remember before I even started working here, I was here one day just talking to you, and I remember being like, oh, what do you think is what sells out of this store the most? Probably Super Nintendo, right? Jaded perception, because I was really into Super Nintendo collecting at the time, and it hit my age demographic. And after a year and a half of working here, that is absolutely not the case of what sells the most out the door, because there's tons of different people that both collect and play video games. You know, you have high-end collectors, you have a mom that wants to come in and buy a PlayStation 2 and knows that they can get quite a few decent games for their kids. They might not have a lot of money. They buy a bunch of $6, $7 games. There's people that just want to play Atari again for the first time. There's so many different types of collectors, and I kind of look at the WATA, or I say WATA, but grading and the heritage market as just a whole new avenue of customers that you can go to at this point, that are looking for something else. So
yeah, exactly. So I mean, I just kind of want to. My feeling is it's not hurting the hobby at all. I think it's bringing a lot of new attention to the hobby.
I agree.
And I don't think it's gonna hurt collectors. I mean, if that collector just happened to be going for hardcore variations, they're in trouble.
Right.
They're in
Absolutely.
trouble. But me, I got a complete Nintendo set a long time ago, like more than 15 years ago, And so I had 3 or 4 different Zeldas boxed. I didn't know T. I mean, I knew I knew this box looked different, and this one had a different hang tab, and the font was different, and I had like 4 variations. You know what I mean? And that's just me. You know what I mean? I have friends that just only had. They didn't even want the second version. They had one, and it was one and done. They didn't care which one they had. And then I had some really hardcore friends that just wanted every single variation. And I'm not just talking Nintendo. I'm talking Atari, you know, and Coleco and all those other brands too. And they wanted every single variation. So, you know, the hobby is, as a hobby, I still think's fine. A little price, you know, you could still pick up those games you need. Relative, if you want a box complete Zelda, you could still find a Zelda for $100.
Absolutely. Honestly, a good buddy of mine just recently picked up a Zelda first print TM on eBay within the past 2 months for under $200. Now, again, CIB Zelda was probably closer to 100, so you are seeing some increases, but those same graded games on Heritage are potentially going for $1,800, you know? So it's just 2 different markets, you know? I deal with a lot of arbitrage personally. I go around and look for a lot of different games. You know, I think that some people want to know if they think that video games are investable, and I'm not going to tell you they are, and I'm not going to tell you they aren't.
That's kind of our disclaimer.
Yeah, you know, and I'm also not going to tell you that you can't make money doing it. There's a difference between making a profit and investing, right? So, you know, a good example I'll use if I look up and I see, you know, Dot Hack Quarantine is up to $200. Well, if I'm somewhere and I find that game for $40, that's not an investment. Like, that's that I know that I'm inherently buying something that's worth more money for less money, and I can make a profit.
You're
right?
a dirty reseller.
You know, yeah, sure am.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. That's what the whole entire store is.
Yeah.
You know, theoretically, that's what the whole store is, right?
It is. And it's also business, but that's also what retail is, right? Like, Walmart makes money off the shampoo that they sell you. They didn't sell it to you for the same price they bought it, and that's just kind of how this works. And it also, my time is valuable, my energy is valuable. I mean, on my day off on Monday, I went to 7 stores. I found nothing that day. Some days you do really good. I spent $5 whole. Got a sealed copy of Heavenly Guardian on Wii, which is just a game I really, really like. So, whatever, you know. But, like, besides that, you know, again, you can still make money in this without having to necessarily convince it's an investment. And I don't want to tell you to quit your day job to go do that. You know what I mean?
We should all open online video game stores. That was in a personal message. So that, and I think that was just a joke. But you know, I don't think we should all do that. I would highly say not to do that.
Yeah. So, and yes, I mean, you know, we're working at a video game store, but you know, again, that's because we both love video games. And I sure do like the customers that walk in here way more than the customers that would yell at me about their iPhones. Yeah. So it's fun, right? Yeah. It's just a fun thing, and it takes a lot of work to understand what you're doing in this industry. So if you're being like pushed to do it blindly, I have spent hundreds and hundreds of hours learning this market. You have spent 20 years of your life
I can never
learning
I can never teach what I know.
No, you know.
I mean, I do teach what I know, but it's not like I just think of something new to teach. It's like things trigger teachable moments.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And that's something that, you know, that's very valuable. You know what I mean? And
as we were talking about the variations, if you look at the Trading Games website, like especially on Atari, like we are very detail oriented, picture label, so on and so forth. But even today, I think it was Centipede. I'm not 100% sure what it was. But there was like, hey, the website says bold text and bright text and light text. Like, which one is this? You know, like I don't know 13 variations for that game, but you learn them over time, and you only learn it because you have exposure to it.
I know which one's the first print. First print Centipede.
Rich.
I'm not telling.
But, you know.
So, to kind of put a spin and a wrap on this video, to kind of keep it a little bit about, you know, why we do this, why we feel qualified to do this, I think we talked about that pretty well. And we definitely still, if people want to question us about that, we welcome that too. We even more, and we can talk about it some more. But the comments and the questions from Instagram, from Trading Games Facebook, from, of course, right here, the comments in the YouTube video, bring them on. Yeah, bring them
Yeah.
on. We love it. We absolutely love it, and we'll try to bring another video next week. So just let's keep up with the questions, and we still have other questions that we want to get into.
Right.
About talk maybe a little bit more about speculation based on popular franchises and what level of speculation you do. So that's what we want to get to in a coming up video. So maybe if we focus more on comments on that, from this video, like, maybe some people how they can get into it from the beginning, and people with maybe what they already have, they can sell some stuff they already have and then just repurchase a less higher level copy or
Right.
something. So
Well, and
just leave it in the comments.
And I think it's important, especially in this, people are going to have different opinions. We talk about this all day long. Sometimes we 100% agree, sometimes
Yep.
we disagree. That's going to be the same for you. You are not necessarily going to agree with everything that comes out of my mouth or his mouth, you know what I mean? But we do want an open dialogue, and we can do it in a polite and respectful manner, and we appreciate your opinions, and we just want to keep talking about it. We talk to each other all day long, and we decided it would be fun to talk to you too.
So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget about tradinggames.com, the website where we sell everything. And, come in, use the website, whatever you feel like. You'll see us around here always. And, we're glad to help you out. And I hope this video helps you out too.
Happy holidays, I hope everyone enjoys their holidays and the remainder
we're
of the year.
Christmas 2020 is almost under our belt in 2 days. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll talk to everybody real soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.